but is it working? Let's go and see. Dun, dun, dun. Oh. 2 people watching. Who's watching? Well, let's see if we can figure this out, guys. I can hear me. Oh, it's working. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Okay. So many buttons to press. Camera. There we go. Okay. Cool. Oh man, I'm excited. Miss Sue's 5150. Thank you for confirming and being the very first ever to live chat in any of my lives ever. This is my first time. Super nervous, but I thought it'd be fun. Let's try it out. Let's talk about some stuff. I might give it a couple of minutes before we really get things kicked off, just because I'm just now noticing I jumped the gun a little bit. I jumped in a couple minutes before even 2 p.m. So we shall give some people some time to join. Wish I had some music. Wish I was better prepared. I was too busy nervously watching tutorials on how to get open broad, whatever OBS stands for. So we'll see if it works. Very excited for the show. Oh, thank you. I'm excited to try it. I've never gone live in any form before, whether YouTube or done any kind of a live performance. I mean, I guess this isn't technically a performance, but it kind of is a little bit. So I'm really nervous. I'm going to try and not let it show. I see there my face is turning red a little bit, but I'm excited. I thought this would be a good way for some of us to kind of interact a little bit over here in the returning retro corner of the internet. So we'll give 2 o'clock. I think we'll probably just hang out until maybe 5 minutes after the hour, and then we can get going. Obviously, I mean, this is mostly just to kind of introduce me to you. Also, if you have questions about me, returning retro, stuff that I've covered on the channel or over in the Reddit sub, which reminds me, let me see. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can figure out how to pin the Reddit page. Okay, let's see here. returning retro. Is that right? Okay, now if I can pin that. There it is. Message pinned. Okay. Would someone mind clicking on that pinned comment that I just did and just let me know if it worked? Again, this is my first time doing any of this. Don't know what works and what doesn't. But actually, let's do this. Whoop. Ha ha ha. Okay. Fast forward to better TV. Nope. Okay, if we click this. Oh, it worked. Okay, close that. And let's just go back to me. So far, so good, guys. Let's see. Very cool. It works. Awesome. Let's see. A blue FJ. Guys, I don't know how to pronounce people's usernames. So, a blue FJ. Thank you for confirming that for me. Appreciate it. So, let's just awkwardly watch me nervously chat about nothing until we give it till about 5 minutes after the hour, and we'll go from there. Happy Sunday, by the way. Happy end of the week or beginning of the week for us here in the United States. Never. Oh, it's Ian. Ian. My goodness. I think this is the first time I've seen your YouTube handle there. So, well, thank you very much for taking care of that for me. Guys, Ian is great. He's always got my back. But yes, in the U.S., the weekend exists, but Sunday is the first day of the next week. I don't understand it. It's weird to me. I think the European version is a little bit more intuitive, with Saturday and Sunday being the end of the week, with Monday being the beginning of the week. But I don't know those things. So now let's see, concurrent viewers. What does that mean? I don't know. Ian, do you know what that means? It says concurrent viewers. Is that like how many people are here right now? Is that how many people have ever been here? I don't know. This is all new. Sorry, I keep saying that. I'm nervous. Got my hydration system here. I don't know if anybody else ever went to any diners growing up or any like small town restaurants and they would have cups very similar to this, but I did a lot. And so I think about them very, very fondly. And the other day we were at Hobby Lobby, thanks to my wife who loves that place. I find some cool stuff there. I mean, let's see. Yeah, probably about 30 or 40% of the stuff on the returning retro wall comes from Hobby Lobby. So thanks, sweetie, for dragging me there. Current viewers, not views over the... Okay, so that's probably views over the whole stream, and then concurrent viewers is the current. Why don't they just say current viewers? Why is it concurrent viewers? I don't know. So, okay. Well, guys, we are at 5 past. So let's go ahead and dive in. Some ground rules. I mean, I haven't run into this problem before, but I like this to be a family-friendly stream, as well as, you know, the YouTube channel and the Reddit page. My kids are very, very curious, and they're very, very interested in anytime Dad does a podcast or a video or whatnot. So they watch pretty much all of it, and I would love for any vulgarity or obscenity to just not show up here at all. So I appreciate you guys helping out with that. But I decided to do a live stream for a couple of reasons. I thought it would be a good way to interact with some of the folks here early on that have started their own returning retro adventure at pretty much the same time as me. Maybe even some of you started this before I did, or before I started the channel or whatnot. But I thought that going live would be a good way for us to kind of interact a little bit, and I could tell you a little bit more about the channel, a little bit more about my motivations for starting the channel and the Reddit page, as well as some other topics that I have made some notes on that we could go over. But if at any point you guys have any questions or want to talk about something else or whatnot, I very much want this to be for the community, for the returning retro team of adventurers. So feel free to throw the questions in anytime. So first thing, returning retro. Why did I decide to start a YouTube channel and the Reddit page in the first place? Well, I found myself, and I've talked about this a little bit in some of the videos that I've done, or some of the posts on Reddit, or comments, or posts on YouTube. I found myself not that long ago, a couple months ago, in just this loop that I find many people are suffering with nowadays, specifically in that, you know, teenage to young adult to, you know, early middle-aged, where technology kind of dictates what they do in their spare time, in their free time, or even honestly when they should be doing other things, it distracts them. In my case, the biggest culprit was a little app called Instagram. I mean, credit to them. They created an algorithm that it got inside my head. I would find myself just mindlessly scrolling onto the next. The short form video were the ones that really got me. I know that many people have a similar kryptonite type relationship with TikTok. I never found my way over. I tried it once when, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think TikTok used to be called something else. And then there was like an acquisition or a merger or something like that, and then it became TikTok. I'm not really sure, but I tried it right after that because everyone was talking about it, and I thought to myself, wow, this is like a worse version of Vine. but Vine's gone, so I guess TikTok is the new thing. And then obviously it took off, and Instagram and YouTube and everyone has started copying that formula, the short form video, because it gets a lot of clicks. I mean, it's super addictive. It can get people locked in for hours and hours and hours. I found myself in that boat, but with Instagram. And I just one time I had the experience where I almost had like this kind of like an anxious, like a wave of anxious energy hit me. And I reached for my phone, I unlocked it, I went into Instagram, and I just started scrolling. And luckily, I don't know if what caused this, but I kind of like, took a step back and observed what I was doing. And it just really struck me. I was like, there was no reason for me to grab my, I hadn't received a notification. No one had messaged me or emailed me, or no one was calling me or whatnot. I just had this nervous impulse to check my phone, go and start scrolling. And I just was, guys, it scared me. I was like, my goodness. And I am someone that I don't think I would consider really a super bad case of this. It didn't necessarily keep me from my day-to-day responsibilities, but it just seeing how something had gotten so bad for me, I thought to myself, okay, what is going on? I have to do something about this. And it really got me reflecting on the way things used to be. And I'm not necessarily talking about this from a nostalgia point of view. I'm talking about it more from an actual practical everyday point of view. Back when phones, I have a couple of them here. So this little guy was one that was very common. I think when I was, let's think here, guys. I want to say middle school, maybe end of elementary school, middle school. This was a very, very common phone. It had a game on it. I don't have a battery for this one. Otherwise oh, there you go. But I do have Minnie Mouse Shopping, $10 bill. How that got in there, I don't know. It had a really fun game on it. Was it called Falling Letters, something where words would fall from the top of the screen, and you had to type before they hit the bottom. It was pretty fun. But this was a great little device for calling and texting. This, your basic phone, and that was kind of the device that started me into the era of mobile phones, even though I never personally owned that. That was one that I think was a friend of mine's dad's, or maybe my dad had it as a work phone for a little while. But you can see here, you just look at this device, and it just has so much character. Performance aside, this was a device that was recognizable. Not the case anymore. Every single black glass slab that exists out there looks and functions pretty much the same. Now, I don't want to get into all of the different reasons that we have reached, final smartphone version, and why those are a little bit concerning. But it didn't used to be this way, guys. And this is kind of why Returning Retro became the name of the channel, was because I think that there are some companies, well, I know there are some companies that are bringing back some of these aspects of the way mobile technology used to be. Namely, they were focused on fun and productivity instead of algorithms and data harvesting and click. We got to get the impressions. We got to get the engagement up. We have to get everyone hooked. We have to advertise their dollars. All of this, they used to literally be made to help people live their lives either more fun or more productively. And I just kind of thought to myself, hey, we used to have it this way. Maybe we could have a return to form. Maybe we could go back. Maybe we could find the companies that are trying to create things for those of us in this, I don't even know what you would call it, space, this market segment, that are looking for ways to be more deliberate in how we use our devices and less compulsive or addicted, and give them our not just our attention, but like help them out, like buy their products. Yes, I'm going to say the word, buy their products, support them. Sleek has entered the stream. This is a great example. These companies that have noticed this and are giving us who are looking for options, the options that we can need to be more intentional about how we use our technology. And so I had this, well, okay, well, maybe I could, what should I do? Just like start posting about it on social media? Or anyway, someone told me, well, Jake, you talk good. Maybe you could do a YouTube channel or something like that. And then I had a couple of really great conversations. One with the incredible Laura Malvoyant, who has a channel, and I absolutely recommend everyone go check out her channel. She was incredibly inspiring for me to start my own, but gave me a lot of really good tips, a lot of encouragement. And then another instrumental in this is Chris from the Side Phone Project. I had a conversation with him, and he kind of gave me I was talking to him about something completely unrelated, and I told him the idea about returning retro, and he just said, dude, you got to do it. And so I said, okay, Chris, I'll do it. And so here we are. And it's been pretty fun. But for those of you who did not grow up pre-2009, and I guess that's, some important context. I was born in the 80s, but I was a 90s kid. I was born in the late 80s, and so I didn't really get to have any of that wonderful 80s cultural experiences, though after the fact I have been able to catch up, I guess you could say. But so as a 90s kid, even in the early 2000s when mobile technology, social media was kind of new, it wasn't what it is now. That all changed around 2009 with the invention and introduction of two features. And I know for the younger viewers, it's going to be hard to even think about this, but the ability to like a social media post or to share a social media post didn't used to exist. If you wanted to do that, you had to do all these different, kind of long, drawn-out ways of copying and pasting and whatnot to get it to work. But social media was it wasn't social media. It was actual social networks. MySpace is a great example, but even Facebook before and Twitter before these new functionality implementations, I just think they were better. It was a completely different platform, medium than what it has become today. And in my personal and totally unprofessional, haven't done any research into this at all, view a superior way in terms of being able to interact with technology in a healthy way. So returning retro, let's get back to that. For those of you who can't return because you weren't there, welcome to the journey. You can make a you can pilgrimage retro. You can go retro for the first time, and we're glad to have you here, regardless of whether you were there before or if you're just coming here now. So real quick, sleek. Yes, technology is a tool. I think that we should bring it back. I think that we should use technology to live our lives and to do it better instead of making our lives all about technology. Yes. Lucy, is that on the table? The new Q25. Oh, Lucy, this is not the Q25. This is my recently acquired BlackBerry Classic, which I think colloquially people call it the Q20. I don't think it was ever officially called that, but the Q10 that preceded it was called the Q10. And so this, I think, codenamed Q20. But this is just a regular BlackBerry Classic. I picked it up a couple of weeks ago, and I've been really trying to get it to work. And what I mean by that is it doesn't support phone calls at all. I haven't been able to. I've gone into a couple of different groups specifically catering to BlackBerry 10 devices or just vintage BlackBerry devices and technology. And as far as I know, currently there are almost no ways. Maybe one. I saw someone say that maybe Boost Mobile might still support some of the 2G. I don't think 3G is around at all anymore. But anyway, the Q20/Classic, this little guy can do data. So I can, I put my US Mobile SIM card in it, which I use their Verizon service through US Mobile. It's called Warp. And I can do texts, I can do multimedia messages, I can do data, 4G data, and that's it. No phone calls. And the worst thing is, if you are traveling with this and you switch from pinging off of one cell tower to the next one, it goes into SOS mode, like it completely loses connection, and then it takes several minutes again to reconnect to the next tower. Not a great experience, but it does still, it works better than my other device that I just love, 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 love. And Ian, I think that this maybe is the one that you're referring to, my Pearl, my BlackBerry Pearl. So for those of you who don't know, the greatest BlackBerry ever made was the BlackBerry Pearl, in my opinion. And this is the Pearl. Let's see if I can get it to focus there for you guys. Not doing great. Anyway, this is the 9100. This is the Pearl 3G. I did break it, and luckily I was able to fix it with the help of some good Samaritans who I tried to put on an update file that was corrupted somehow. I don't know if it corrupted when I downloaded it or if it was maybe uploaded to where I got it corrupt already, but it totally bricked it. It didn't do anything at all. I couldn't even turn it off without taking out the battery. But then I was able to pick up from, like, I posted in a couple different places, and 2 different people said, yeah, I've got the OS file for you. And so I was able to reflash BlackBerry OS 6, and then I thought, 5 is a little bit better for this older device. And so, yeah, primarily at this point, I use this just for if I want to jot down some notes. It has the Shure type keyboard. My goodness, guys, how do the real streamers get these things to focus? I don't know. Anyway, it's a 20 key, so you've got 2 letters per key instead of like T9 where you had 3, or like a full QWERTY where you have all of them. It's an awesome typing experience. So for those of you who have been following on the channel, I've recently been going back to physical keyboard devices, both the vintage ones as well as some of the newer / retro ones, and I'll show you some of those here in a minute. I love QWERTY phones, physical keyboard phones. I love them, and I am so excited that we're starting to see more options for these in 2025. I mean, who would have guessed it? But I think that some people are. I say some people. I think that a lot of people are starting to realize the benefits of intentional tech, whether that's broadly intentional tech, meaning we want to use our technology as a tool as opposed to becoming a tool of the technology. Maybe that's a good way to put it. I don't know. But because of that, we've got companies that are providing some options. Sleek is one of these options that's in the chat. Sidephone is one. Q25, who I think Lucy was that, had mentioned the it's a project where they're basically taking the BlackBerry Classic. They're keeping a lot of the hardware components, so the function buttons or the utility belt, as I've heard it be called, the keyboard, headphone jack, LED, the screen's all going to be the same. But then they're ripping out all the internals and basically putting in a whole new smartphone so that it will be able to run with a modern OS, Android. They've changed it around a couple of times, 14, 13. I'm not really sure where it's at right now. But and it'll be able to run on the modern network, so you don't have to worry about is 3G still around, is 2G still around, so on and so forth. So again, another great option today. Obviously, there's the minimal phone that I've showcased on the channel quite a bit. Really enjoy that device. I really like a physical keyboard on my phone, including if let me make sure here, put one onto just a real quote unquote full-fledged smartphone. This is the Pixel 9 running the new clicks for Pixel. I would say it's a better experience than without it, but it is super top heavy. I mean, guys, let's just marvel a little bit here. Let's just marvel, okay? BlackBerry Pro. I mean, this was a smartphone. This was not a basic phone or a feature phone. This was a smartphone. It had enterprise email, all of it. Next to, would you just look at that? Look at the different. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is like 5 of these. But again, I enjoy using the Pixel with the clicks more than I enjoy using it without. So I've seen a lot of clicks has taken a lot of heat from people who are not at all interested in their product, would never use their product, telling them how bad their product is. I don't know. I just have to laugh at this kind of stuff. So physical keyboard phones. So yes, I think that in the vein of returning retro, I had started thinking I was going to go to more leaning into the digital minimalism branch of intentional tech, but I'm finding myself just leaning into the broader intentional tech use as a whole. To me, and again, this is just personal opinions here or my own observations or experiences. Digital minimalism, the goal seems to use the dumbest device you can find and spend as little time online or using technology as you possibly can. And for some people, awesome. I fully support that. I am not in that group of some people. I find I do need to spend time online. I also find that I do enjoy spending time online. I just want to do it deliberately instead of compulsively, or because I am consciously making the decision instead of being addicted to the device and the apps and all of that. So Returning Retro was born, and here we are. It's been a lot of fun, and the biggest goal, I think, was, well, it was twofold, and I've talked about this before, is to document my own journey, Returning Retro, my own adventure, my own expedition. Those words will come important at a later date. You guys can mark my words for that. But I also want to create a community where people interested in intentional tech can basically come together, share ideas, share the wins, the losses, to help each other answer questions, whatever the case may be, or even just have a good time hanging out and chatting together. So let's real quick. I'm noticing the chat is kind of getting away from me here. Let's see. Pearl. Yes, the Pearl came in. Oh, Laura's in the chat. Laura Malvoyant, welcome. The BlackBerry Pearl was my first BlackBerry. I had the white one. Yes. Now, Laura, I'm curious. Did you have the 8100, the 8120, the 9100, or the 9105? The only one I didn't have was the 9105 because I was not interested in a T9 BlackBerry. That was not something that really appealed to me. But the 8100 was the Pearl that had the actual the scroll wheel. And it was great. And then the 8120 came out and it upped the specs. It went from a 2.5, I think it was a 2.5, maybe it was a 1.5, the really, really small headphone port to the standard 3.5 millimeter, which was awesome. And they changed the design of the keys. Instead of being like a V, they did a little bit of a curve, which then carried over to the 9100 device. So I am curious which one you used, Laura. Okay, Lucy, I didn't adapt to writing without physical, I misspelled, I guess. Okay, Laura had a retracted message. Laura, what's going on? Just kidding. Gosh, I'm struggling to type. Love the Clicks company as a whole. This is Ian. Not a fan of their keys themselves, but I understand it is to avoid patent issues. Yes, the Clicks, the keycap geometry is a little bit different than the BlackBerry style keycaps. I've gotten used to them a bit. The original, let me grab this here and show you some more not in focus. So you're really not going to be able to see. So this is for the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and the keycaps on these were pretty much flat. In fact, they might be totally flat. And I got used to it. I mean, they're okay. On the newer devices, for the newer iPhones as well as all of the different Android versions, the keycaps do have a little bit of I would call it a swoop, where they do, similar to the BlackBerry, they kind of fold up a little bit as you go in. It does. I mean, I personally didn't have any problems with the original design, but these ones are kind of nice. It helps you build muscle memory, I think, a little bit better, so that when you're typing, you can not necessarily always have to look. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe them, but in any case, so yes, they're not a BlackBerry one-to-one replacement, but again, and this is what I tell people when I see them kind of hating on Clicks. It's like, okay, yes, this, I mean, even compared to the Key One, it's not the same. I mean, this is top heavy, it's like the Leaning Tower, but I still think it's better personally than without the keyboard. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. I have to watch lives on my tablet. E-Ink is not great for YouTube for good reason. Yes, Laura. Yes. E-Ink. Now I will say, the Highbreak Pro is actually very, very watchable on YouTube. They're fast refresh technology. I'm not sure what it's called, that Big Me uses. So yes, this is one where it's almost hard to even call the Highbreak Pro an intentional tech device, just because it's basically a very powerful smartphone with an e-ink display. So, you should get the Sleek Brick, the dumbest phone on the market. I would love a Sleek Brick. I should probably go and check their site. I don't know if they still have any in stock. The 8100, yeah, okay, yeah, the 8100, Laura. That is an excellent. Mine is long gone. I don't know what happened to it or the 8120, but my 9100 is going. I mean, I just the Pearl, the trackball was fine, but it would get gummed up with just lint and anything that was on your fingers and stuff, and you'd have to replace it, which was very doable, but it was kind of a pain. I just found that the optical trackpad that they went to, I'm not sure which the first device was. I know that the Curves and the Bolds used them as well. I just found it to be a lot better. Let's see. Ian, we know all about avoiding BlackBerry key patterns. Yes, we do. Brick's screen time is unmatched. Yes, the screen time on Brick's. You will never get a lower screen on time or screen use time than with the Sleek Brick. For anyone who's curious, head over to their website, order a Brick if they still have them in stock. So, okay, awesome. Now, I want to talk about BlackBerry devices today. So let's see if I can, trying to think of the best way to do this. Well, let's just go over it. So I've showed you guys the 9100. This was my college BlackBerry. This is an old 9700. I used this for a couple of years in college before moving on to something else. I never was able to use the BlackBerry Classic when it first came out because they were largely unavailable at the time. I think that by the time they came out in, was it 2014 or 2015, BlackBerry was kind of on their way out with the carriers. Well, and actually this is another good point for people, because I know I have a somewhat international group here. The way you buy a cell phone in the United States is still very, very, very linked to your phone carrier, the provider of your service. I know that this is not the case elsewhere. I know that it very much is the case in the United States and Canada. I'm not sure about South America, but I know that in other places, specifically Europe as an example, they never really did get into this whole relationship between how you got your phone was through your carrier, or at least not to the extent that is the case in even still today. Most cell phones, I mean, it's got to be a huge overwhelming majority. I don't know hardly anybody outside of my own immediate family, and even then only because I showed them, you can buy a cell phone on Amazon or directly from a lot of the manufacturers themselves, Google, Motorola. Apple, a lot of people don't know that you can just buy iPhones directly from Apple. They'll buy them from the carrier. They'll just go into either a T-Mobile store, a Verizon store, or an AT&T store, and they'll take advantage of whatever promotion that they have and get locked into a multi-year contract and be there. Not the case most other parts of the world, at least according to my understanding of it. And so I tell you that because BlackBerry was heavily involved in these big contracts that they would have with mobile phone carriers. And so the carrier would buy the phones from BlackBerry, to my understanding, and then the carriers themselves would offer whatever kind of promotions to the end user. By the time the BlackBerry Classic rolled around, they just weren't as interested, they being the carriers, in working with BlackBerry as some of the other Android or, obviously Apple, because of consumer shifts in consumer demand. And so where I was, the only way that you could get one of these was very expensive, and as a poor college student, it just wasn't something that I was able to do. However, I have one now, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, I've tried my best to use it in 2025, and it's just, like I said, I've got texts, I've got multimedia messages, and I've got data. There are a couple of apps that you can use that are native BlackBerry apps that you can still get some functionality out of. Also, some very, very, very old Android apps will actually work on BlackBerry 10 devices, such as the Classic, the Q10. I think the Q5 is a BlackBerry 10, if I'm not mistaken. Your experience with that, the performance is going to vary quite a bit in terms of the different devices are different specs, and so the Classic is going to be different than, say, the Passport, another very popular one. I think the Passport maybe is the one that has the most horsepower in terms of what it can actually do. But so this little guy for me is a I may text periodically, but there is a version of Telegram that works, and so I'll use this for Telegram just because I love the keyboard, and it's my MP3 player. So I've started ripping all of the different CDs that I found at thrift shops recently. I also discovered, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but iTunes still has a store separate from Apple Music. You can actually still go and buy songs individually or in albums that you can download, put them on whatever you want, burn them to a CD, put them on an MP3 player. I did not know this, you guys. I didn't know this until a couple of days ago. And so this is something that opens a whole new world. And I'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end of the stream once we talk about music. But yes, so this my BlackBerry Classic right now. The reason I use it over the Pearl 9100 usually, even though this is much more portable, and I might try it again using some different encoding options for the music, but this does great sound quality out of the headphone jack. Even just with a very inexpensive pair of headphones, I found the sound to be really good, noticeably better than on this Pearl. Now, again, I haven't done much testing with it. I might be able to fine tune it because I would love to use this because it's way smaller. It gets a little bit better battery life, I think, as a result of that, and it doesn't, it works with Wi-Fi, but this doesn't run BlackBerry 10. It runs BlackBerry either 5 or 6, which are even more limited because you don't have any Android app compatibility whatsoever. So been trying the Classic. I use it for a little bit. I was hoping that I could use it more than I do, but what I've kind of settled on, besides the minimal phone, is recently I picked up a BlackBerry Key 2. Now, I had one of these a little while ago, and it had the dreaded spacebar problem where it wouldn't register, or it would register a single tap as a double tap. And even this one still, when I'm typing, the spacebar has a noticeably different I don't know. It's different. It's clicky in a different way than all of the other buttons. And so you really have to get used to that. And it even still is kind of weird. However, I will say the Key 2, it has a lot of functionality that I wasn't really expecting. Some of this is because, so yeah, that one that I had to get rid of it because it just was unusable for me. I couldn't type on it. It was so bad. But this guy, in fact, here, I got this all set up and I haven't even stand by. Let's do this. BlackBerry Key 2. Okay, guys, let's see if this is gonna work. Bam. Okay, so let's go over here. There we go. So this you can kind of see a little bit better than me trying to hold it up out of focus on my device. The Key 2, it runs Android. It runs Android 8. So there is some major compatibility issues in that a lot of apps nowadays don't work. So for example, my banking app is not available on this device because it is running too old of a version of Android. However, many apps that I use, and this is important, on my intentional tech journey work great on the Key 2. So using this in what I call Jake mode, which is where I will have calling, texting, a messaging app, which for me is Telegram, and then my ebook app, which is Read Era. Shout out to Read Era. I'm probably going to do a video about that app because I love it so much. This works great. I mean, honestly, it can do voice over LTE, so I can do calls and stuff still, even though the 2G and 3G are shut down in the United States, which is what keeps the BlackBerry Classic or other BlackBerry 10 devices from working correctly. And Telegram works great. Calls and texts work great. Even the version of Google Messages that is compatible with this also supports RCS. So on this device, which is from, let's see here, guys. Let's go back and see. Does it tell us? Does it tell us when it came out? The Key 2 was officially announced in 2018. Oh, okay. So it's a little bit newer than I thought. For some reason, I was thinking 2014 or 2015. It was released an entry level. The Key 2 LE was introduced in October that same year. Okay, which I have heard that the LE, the Key 2 LE, didn't have the spacebar issue that was such a problem with many of the units of the Key 2. Might have to see if I can get my hands on an LE and compare. That might be kind of fun. Would you guys be interested in seeing a comparison video on that? Let me know. Okay, real quick, Laura. The trackball gunk was like the mouse ball gunk. Yes, Laura. Kids, mice used to have a ball here instead of this laser or optical sensor that is what would cause your cursor to move across the screen. In France, nobody buys through the carrier unless they are over the age of 65. Oh, okay, yes. And I think it is getting more common here that people will buy either directly from the manufacturer or through a retailer like Amazon or Best Buy. But still, I would say the majority, I don't know if I would say the overwhelming majority, 80%, I don't know, but the majority, more than half, probably more than 3/4 of people in the United States still get their device through a carrier. So yes, the Key 2 still works great if you use it as an intentional tech device. If you try to use it just as a full-on smartphone, you're going to have a bunch of compatibility issues. You're going to probably have some battery drain issues, and I wouldn't recommend it for that. But after using the minimal phone for several weeks in preparation for doing a real-world review of that device, I decided, why not? Let's just switch on over to the old Key 2 and give that a try. And I've actually been pretty impressed. Now, they are very different in terms of the keyboards themselves. But I mean, the minimal phone has a great keyboard, guys. I really, really like it a lot. I would say in some ways, I even prefer it to that of the Key 2. But in other ways, I like the Key 2's keyboard a little bit more. I don't want to get into the weeds of all of that in this setting, but I think so. As far as BlackBerry devices, now granted, some of the purists would argue that the BlackBerry Key devices, the Key 1, the Key 2, and the Key 2 LE, aren't actually BlackBerry devices because they were created by, they were built by, let's see, does it tell us? TCL. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was them or if it was. So yeah, TCL licensed a bunch of the patents and the technology and whatnot from BlackBerry Mobile and created this. So it's a BlackBerry kind of, I guess you could say. It's the most BlackBerry that you could probably get and use with relatively few hiccups today. So it's been great. I might do a video about it, using a Key 2 as my daily driver in 2025. In fact, I probably will, just because it has been surprisingly more capable than I expected. Again, huge asterisk here with the caveat being using it as an intentional tech device instead of just a regular smartphone. I really do think that you would run into some major issues in terms of probably battery life and then app compatibility because it is running Android 8. Okay, guys, so let's see. Top tech tricks. What are we talking about here? Boil a small round egg and use it to replace the old. I never tried that. I can't imagine that would end well, though, if I'm being honest. So, okay, another thing I wanted to talk about here is the e-ink revolution, guys. I am really, really enjoying. The first time I think I had heard of an e-ink smartphone, I want to say it was like either an unboxing video or a reaction video from a channel called Unbox Therapy. And Lou just kind of trashed on it. It was, I don't even remember which device it was. It was probably, well, actually, I don't know. I can't speculate, but he just couldn't get over how bad of an experience it was because the refresh was so slow and because, but again, this was the first, I guess without even realizing, because this was long before I had even thought of returning retro or intentional tech or even had been aware of the idea of digital minimalism. But it was my first introduction to people kind of reviewing or responding to a device who clearly is not who it was intended for. It was not the target audience or that person's audience wasn't the intended audience, so to speak. But fast forward to, a couple of years later, and I am really, really thrilled to see some of these options that are existing out there for people who are looking for ways of being more intentional about how they use their tech. So I've experimented a little bit with the Highbrake Pro. This is much a different experience compared to the minimal phone. I mean, obviously you've got the screen is like the size of the Highbrake Pro is like the size of the entire minimal phone, but the display technologies are different. Here you've got a very nice e-ink display versus a more generic e-paper display on the minimal phone. So I think that for people that experience eye strain, the e-ink or e-paper smartphone is going to be a really, really good alternative. In the case of the minimal phone, I find it really, really nice to be able to have some what I would call maybe hardware safeguards to help you from being addicted as a given. And what I mean by that is the minimal phone has an e-paper display, which again is already a step down from e-ink in terms of refresh rates, in terms of clarity. Now, again, I don't say this because I'm saying it's bad. I found the display on the minimal phone to be more than adequate. In fact, I enjoy reading on it very, very much. I think that it's a great panel for what it is. But what it is not great for is any kind of dynamic content where you've got, so for example, navigation, video, gaming, or whatnot. You can forget about it. At least I can forget about it. Every time I tried using the minimal phone in smartphone mode, it would crash. It would have performance issue after performance issue. And so for those reasons, it is not a great device. But that's also what makes it a great device. It has limitations built into it hardware-wise that helps you use it minimally, which I think is how the minimal company intend the device to be used. And an example of that is battery life. When I would use it in smartphone mode, which in my real world review, I'll go into more details on this, but I didn't even get 24 hours. I got like 22, maybe 23 hours. And that was honestly just using it as I would any regular smartphone. And it didn't even last me a full day, compared to using it in what I call Jake mode, which, the four things of Jake mode: calling and texting, calling, texting and MMS, a messenger app, which for me is Telegram, and then an e-reader app, which is Read Era for me. It almost got me 4 days of battery. It was a little over 3. It was like 3 days and a couple of hours. And it was a great experience. There were no glitches, there were no crashes. It did exactly what I needed it to do using it that way. And so I can appreciate these companies that do more of the hardware approach to intentional tech, or even helping you become digitally minimal, if that is one of your goals. The problem, I guess you could say, with the Highbreak Pro is it is a very capable smartphone in its own right. Again, the specs and whatnot, you can find those, but it is way more capable in terms of just the computing power than the minimal phone is. And for that reason, it's really tough to use it as an intentional tech device. If you want to use it as, a smartphone for all intents and purposes, it's just a smartphone with a black and white screen. You can tell that it's e-ink. I mean, I'm not saying that it's, if you took an LCD or an OLED panel and just put it on monochrome, it's not quite that good of a screen, but it's not that far behind it. And so if you're looking for a device to help with your intentional tech or trying to be digitally minimal, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the Bigme Highbreak, simply because it is so capable. For people that are maybe a little bit further along on their journey returning retro or using tech more intentionally, it could be a great device because you've got all of the benefits of an e-ink display, the less eye strain, the really good battery life if you're using it, not with a bunch of video and stuff, but you also have the capability to do a lot more than you would necessarily with a minimal phone that just has, not quite as good of specs. So this is to say, now the other thing that I think is really neat, and I've got a device that should be here sometime in the next week or so, that is also in this. I'm not going to say anything more than that because I don't want to commit to something and then have it not show up or have it be the wrong thing that was sent or whatnot. But I think that it is really cool that we are seeing so many of these cool e-ink devices that just didn't even exist not that long ago. And one of those let's see. Here's an example, guys. I don't know anything about this. I just pulled this up for illustrative purposes, but they make e-ink monitors. Maybe this is old news. I don't know, but this is something that I thought was really, really neat when I heard about it fairly recently. to be able to just use your computer and do so without I mean, for those of you that don't know, I'm an accountant. And so I sit at a computer all day, every weekday, and spreadsheets and programs and whatnot. And so I'm really curious if I were able to get my hands on one of these. Probably I would need one with a color, with a color e-ink. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how this would compare, if it would be a usable experience for me at work, or if it just wouldn't, because the black and white, or even just the e-ink in general, would be too limiting. But the moral of this story is, see, this is from 2022. Okay, I'm way out of I'm out of the loop, guys. I apologize. This is old news, but I think that it is so cool that we are seeing these options that we hadn't ever seen before. So, intermission time. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to make sure that I let you guys go at the top of the hour. It's about 3 o'clock, almost 3 o'clock here for me. But something that I wanted to talk to you about that has been a pretty cool experience is music, in that the way we used to consume our music is very different than what has become the norm, streaming. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, I discovered that iTunes still has the iTunes store where you can purchase and download songs. And I even found that some of my old purchases were still there. So that was kind of a fun little look back at some of the stuff that I had purchased in the past, or gotten for free in the past, or had been against my will given in the past, in the case of a particular U2 album. Those of you that were there can remember that. But I think that it is really neat to go back and sort of relive some of these experiences from the past. So I shared this out the other day, or was it yesterday? A couple of CDs that I had found at a local thrift shop, and this laptop that I had picked up at the same thrift shop a couple of weeks ago. I unfortunately I did get this CD DVD combo drive on Amazon. It's okay. It's very slow in terms of the read and write speed compared to what we used to have, just right in our computer tower. In fact, I found an old work computer that I got up and running with Windows 7, and it's got, I mean, it could rip an entire CD in the time that this little guy takes to do like 2 tracks. But in any case, this was really fun to go through this whole process and take something that I had purchased and convert it from a physical medium over to a digital, and then put it on, like I had said, I didn't say, but on an SD card to be able to listen to on my dedicated MP3 player with this lovely QWERTY keyboard, the BlackBerry Classic. Now, another factor of music that I wanted to talk to you guys about is my personal favorite music genre. And I would love if anyone has any recommendations or any thoughts or question or whatever about this specifically, leave it here in the chat, because I would love to talk to you guys about it. Have you heard of the musical genre Synthwave? Because I had not. And when I did, I mean, this is something that I stumbled across. I can't even remember how I found this genre. Maybe it popped up on some, not a playlist, but on Spotify. You know how you can click the thing that says, go to this song's radio, and then it will just pull in a bunch of songs similar to the one that you were just listening to. I think that something popped up on that, and I discovered Synthwave for the very first time. So we're going to talk about this. And again, I would love for you guys to tell me any experiences you have had with it whatsoever, because it's relatively new, I think. But here, let's just go through this. Synthwave is, at its core, a revival of music from the 80s with the rose-tinted glasses view. It's a genre that's instantly recognizable due to the use of cliche instruments such as synthesizers and electronic drums. So I don't know. So the synthwave.fandom, this is something that someone obviously put a lot of time and effort into researching and putting. Oh, we'll see you, Sleek. I don't know which of you that is, but appreciate you stepping by or stopping by. We'll chat more. We'll chat more for sure. But Synthwave seems to be the way they've done it here is Synthwave is sort of the catch-all top overarching genre, and then you've got all kinds of different subgenres here below. But let's just go through here. Origins. Synthwave's roots grew up in what the 80s had used and what was left behind. The genre originated in the mid to late 2010s, which I mean, it's probably no coincidence that's the same time that I first came across it, from artists whose work started favoring the use of synthesizers and the thematic of the 80s culture. It grew in France. Oh, there you go, Laura. Know anything about synthwave? With the first artists of the genre being Kavinsky, David Grelier, Justice, and M83, of which I have heard of Kavinsky and M83. I haven't heard of these other two. Influences are drawn from the entertainment industry from the 80s, being movies like Blade Runner, Akira, American Psycho, video games such as Outrun, which is a huge one in the genre. In fact, I think there's even a subgenre of synthwave specifically called Outrun, where the music is all just based off of the Outrun theme song, which I think was a video game. A video game for the 80s, as well as specific composers such as Vangelis, John Carpenter, Tangerine Dream, or Jean-Michel Jarre. Both musical and visual aesthetics for video clips follow these influences. The genre has developed immensely and has already reached worldwide recognition through the record-smashing hit of The Weeknd's Blinding Lights single. There it is. Believe it or not, Blinding Lights, however, is not the song that introduced me to synthwave. I had been listening to it for maybe a year or so, and then Blinding Lights came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, synthwave is like going mainstream. So anyway, go ahead and I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are on this. The subgenres, I personally, let's see, dark synth. I have listened to some dark synth. It's pretty cool. Dreamwave, not really familiar with that. Outrun, as I mentioned, this one is super, super popular, a little bit more upbeat. Retrowave, okay. Kind of coincidental that my favorite subgenre of synthwave is retrowave, given the channel's namesake. But this is really, really fun stuff. Retrowave is songs that if you heard it for the first time, you would think, oh, there's an 80s song that I have never heard before. Well, that's because it's not from the 80s. It's made in the style of the 80s, but it's new and it's from today. So, and then you've got synthwave here, all these micro genres. Let's see here, chill wave, chill synth. See, this is the first time I've even gone through and looked at this this wiki. So I might go and read through all of this when I don't have all of you waiting for me to talk about something more interesting. But anyway, synthwave. This is a really cool genre, and all the different subgenres, which themselves are quite a bit different. Dark synth and retrowave, for example, are very, very different. But you can tell when you listen to them that that's kind of the same. That's part of the same family of music. But this is something that I just wanted to throw out here as an aside in case anyone wondered, what does Jake at Returning Retro listen to when he has his free reign of the entire Spotify or even internet collective data? I listen to synthwave. I think it's really, really neat. It gives me a feeling of, I don't know, there's a little bit of a nostalgia factor to it as well, but I just like the music. I find that it is very, very well done. I find that it puts me in a really good headspace. I mean, I like it probably the same reason anyone likes the music that they like. So I figured I would introduce it to you guys and see if you maybe found something that you enjoyed from it as well. So, okay, guys, we are approaching the top of the hour. This has been my first ever live stream. We had a lot of people swing by. Concurrent viewers. I think we hit 10 at one point. Not really sure. I have to go back and check, but I appreciate you for joining and stopping by. I might do some more of these in the future if this was fun for you guys. It's kind of neat to be able to in real time interact with people. I also at the same time though kind of felt like I monologued a bit, so I don't know. We'll see. Might jump on and do another one. But thank you so much. Closing thoughts. I have a lot of really, really cool stuff in store for Returning Retro, and by extension, all of you with me on the adventure. I've got some stuff. Again, I've just seen some over-promising and under-delivering lately in the tech sphere, and I don't want to do that. I don't, as much as I want to tell you about stuff that I've got sort of cooking, I don't want to overpromise and under-deliver here. So as soon as I can tell you about the stuff that I have that I have in store, I will. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm so excited that you guys are here with me. I did want to give a very, very special shout out to Laura Malvoyant. Let me get her. Let's see here. YouTube.com/ Come on, Laura, where are you? There we go. Oh, she's talking. Okay, let's go back over here. Okay, so please, please, please go and check out her channel. I'm going to put it here in the chat. She has awesome videos. In fact, Laura, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, if you're still on. The other day I was looking up how to do something on one of my Blackberries. I can't remember if it was the Classic or if it was the Pearl, and your channel, a video on your channel was the #1 Google result for it. So well done on that. You're putting out some really great resources for the community. So yes, please, she's got all kinds of great stuff in the digital minimalism sphere, in the intentional tech sphere, vintage devices, retro devices, which there is a difference, folks. Vintage and retro, they are not synonymous. But so please go and check her out. Let's see here. Sleek, also have to give these guys a shout out. They have been awesome. Big fans of the channel. They've got a really neat option for people that are wanting to be more intentional about how they in their device and their software choice. They have the phone, Sleek's the phone. Currently, you can see here, it's based on the Pixel 7. They have their own version, their own operating system called Odyssey OS, which is custom made to help you live your life and spend less time online. But when you do need that online time, they make it so that it gives you exactly what you need right when you need it. So we're gonna give them a shout out here. Yeah, and oh, there was one more. Let me see if I can find it here really quickly, guys. Bear with me. Yes, in fact, we talked about it earlier on the stream. The Q25 project. Now, this is very early on in development. I've done a couple of videos with the lead developer that are on the channel, so go and check those out. But this is what we were talking about before, where they are taking basically a BlackBerry Classic, ripping out the guts, and turning it into more or less a modern smartphone. The details are here. There's a frequently asked questions page. There's also a Discord, which I don't know if they have linked here. Looks like they don't. So yes, this is something that I'm following very closely. I am hoping that I'll be able to get in a test device to have on the channel and see how it works and let you guys know. But yeah, this is another really cool project that I've been following. So I'll leave that for you as well. Anyway, thanks so much for stopping by, guys. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and hopefully you have a great Monday as well. This has been fun. Probably going to do another one. Appreciate you.